Welcome to the Rapport Advantage podcast, transforming the way leaders communicate. Here's your host, Alex Swire-Clark.
Get on in here, people. I'm not welcoming you to the show today because this stuff is too good to waste time. I'm telling you, this is good stuff today, people. Job benchmarking. Oh, spoiler. Seriously, welcome to the show. We're excited to have you with us today on the Rapport Advantage podcast. If you haven't listened to our podcast before, we are here to help you break down the walls of communication, increase your emotional intelligence, and build better relationships in the workplace and beyond. That is our goal. That is what we will do today. I am Alex Swire-Clark, CEO, speaker, human behavior expert, and
I am Liz Parker. I am a certified behavioral analyst, strategic growth consultant, and as you're going to find out today, job benchmarking whiz.
Yes, she is. And it's going to be awesome. Job benchmarking, job matching. You might have heard those two names. They're synonymous for us on this podcast today. So if you're out there about going and looking for job matching versus job benchmarking, we're talking about the same thing today. This show you're welcome. This show is all about you, people. Not you, Liz, but you, the audience. So give us your input and feedback. Find us on Facebook at The Rapport Advantage, on Twitter at Rapport Podcast, or visit the website at rapportadvantage.com. You can leave a digital message through the SpeakPipe app, all kinds of good ways, email, however you need to get a hold of us. Just get a hold of us. If you've got questions, we'll answer them. And today's Disc Thought of the Day is coming from Liz. If you've listened to our last two episodes, Liz has been just spot on, magical in terms of her ability to guess who the quote is from. That's kind of what we do with these Disc Thoughts of the Day. And then we do a little bit of extrapolation about what style this person was speaking from and or to. So Disc Thought of the Day today is coming from Liz, and I'm going to try to guess. This is going to be nothing but a but I'm there. I'm pumped up. So my fans are ready. They're cheering me on. They know I can do this. I'm not sure I can. So positivity. Here we go.
All right. So here's the thought for the day, Alex. Someone famous said this: those who dare to fail miserably can achieve greatly.
Elmo.
Oh, that is very good.
Those who dare to fail miserably can achieve greatly.
Right? I mean, that was the quote. I just heard it. That was it right there.
Wow, that was very, very good, Elmo. But no, it isn't you.
Are you serious? Come on.
Okay, fine. It wasn't Elmo. Let's see.
So start breaking it down for us. Those who dare to fail miserably can achieve greatly.
So I'm thinking high D. Those D's are risk takers, big time. If you don't, get off your butt and do something, nothing's ever going to be accomplished. So it's going to be a high D.
Yep.
Is this person still alive?
No, it's in the category of what we have been quoting the last few episodes.
Okay.
Do you remember what type of people those were?
I do. We were talking about, we had some presidential folks. We had Confucius, so we had some famous folks on there. I'm going to go military / presidential-ish. I'm going FDR.
Oh my gosh, I almost got a quote for him and it wasn't.
Dang it.
Later. That was so close though, because I just about picked one that was very similar to this. So you are in the right ballpark. This one happened in my lifetime, probably not in yours. And he's of our faith.
That would be the illustrious JFK.
Woohoo!
That's right.
Yes.
It only took me like two guesses and tons of help and tons of hints. But thank you, Liz. Yes, John Fitzgerald Kennedy, JFK, president who got us on the moon, was beloved by so many people. So, yes, he was very much a high D risk taker. We're going to get to the moon in that whole space race back in that whole 60s time frame, 50s and 60s time frame. So excellent thought of the day, Liz. So you're 2 for 2. I'm 0.75 for 1.
No, you did a fabulous job. So I'd say you're 1 for 1.
Well, thank you. Awesome. Our main show topic of the day, if you listen to our last podcast, we got into sales success, and we've been talking about other things with practical applications. This is certainly one of those today, and that is job benchmarking or job matching. So, Liz, explain a little bit to the folks about what is job benchmarking just as a concept.
I am delighted to talk about this. And the concept is really looking at superior performance in a single key job position. So you're just trying to identify, what does superior performance look like in a job?
Okay. And so why should a company even do this to start with?
One of the reasons is to provide role clarity and definition to each key position in your organization. It's really all about helping the organization hold each employee accountable for what you are hiring them to do. And making sure that when you detail what the job's about, it's the superior performance that you're looking for, not that mediocre performance, but what a superior performance looks like. It's kind of looks at the culture of accountability. It helps to build that in an organization when you have a job benchmark.
Okay, so we're talking about maximizing performance of a person in a role so that when you're hiring them, you know, okay, I want a person to be able to do this, X, Y, and Z. And so I know that no one's going to be a perfect fit for that candidacy, but if I've got them closer to X and they're a little further away from Y, but really close to Z, and I'll be able to objectively compare them to other candidates. Is that where we are?
That is where we are. And I'm going to hire you as my salesman.
Sweet. I like it. I hope the pay's good, because this whole podcasting thing, we don't get paid a lot for it, but it's fun.
We'll benchmark that for you.
That's right. That's right. So we're talking about accountability and making
Yes.
sure that when people come in, we've benchmarked the job, we've laid out the plans. Here are the steps. Here are the things that they need to do to be successful, and then we match that to personality styles as another piece of the puzzle.
Yes.
And so putting that all together must take a lot of work, or it must be complex. So how's it done?
Well, you really want to start with the people who surround the job. So as you think about it, you might have somebody who's the manager. You might have somebody who this position reports to. Maybe you even have a person in the position, but you want to get what we call subject matter experts all together in a room or online. You can do it over Zoom as well as you can do it in person. The idea is that you get everybody together and you list all the tasks that are required in that job. And by listing all the tasks, you then kind of start to look at what natural categories happen within those tasks. And you start to group things together. Through that process, it takes us a couple of hours. We can get really good at it in an hour when we really know the job well. But what you're doing is really trying to prioritize what's most important in that job and how much time it takes to do that task. So once we do that with the group, it makes a big difference.
Okay, so let me hit it from the other side of the graph. We talk about our task-oriented versus our people-oriented folks. When we have D's and C's that look at job benchmarking, they love it because it's all about, okay, I've got to do these 17 things to have an effective person in that role. But is there anything built in there for the softer part of the business? Like, do they need to have, a good sense of humor or being able to be relatable? How does that factor in?
Well, that comes from where you're looking at qualities rather than what you're looking at as far as what the tasks are. When you go in to do a job benchmark, we give you a link, which is going to help identify that behavioral style. And so as we do that, the system works it so that the behavioral style comes out, the motivators that get this person up and out of bed in the morning, all those questions are built within that, but you're going off what the task list requires the person. It is an amazing process that if I knew how computers worked and how the links work, I could tell you exactly how that pulls together, but your job benchmark will start to pull that out. Additionally, those other qualities like humor and some of those things, you're going to actually want to interview and hire for in a different way. Those are really qualities and competencies you're looking for somewhere else.
You mentioned motivators. Motivators are, so critical to keeping retention. So can you dive a little bit deeper into the motivator side of things?
The motivators are these attitudes that people, it's their why. Why do they get out of bed in the morning? So as you start looking at motivators, you may want somebody to behave a certain way, and they can do that. But if they don't come with that passion behind it that says, I want to do this job in this certain way, they're never going to do it. So the motivators are all about 6 different attitudes that are broken out to say, hey, I am very results oriented. So I'm a return on investment. I'm all about knowledge. I want to learn about knowledge. I might be all about harmony. It might be about power and control. So you have those different types of attitudes that come out in a motivator, why people do what they do.
Awesome. So we combine all that stuff. together, and we have each subject matter expert, taking that online job assessment as if they were kind of in the job, using that
Yes.
information created by the accountability session. And what kind of results does that produce?
So what it creates is a one-page matrix that we can create that says, hey, here are the top 7 competencies required in the job. We have a list of 25 competencies that people do in a job, but it's unrealistic to expect anybody would do that. So we'll have top 7 competencies they should be able to do as a superior performer. They will have 4 behaviors that we expect them to show up in the job. So things like they need to have urgency, they might need customer orientation, maybe flexibility, things like that. And then the motivators will come in. So they might need to have good return on investment. They might need to have harmony within the group. They might need to be very objective. So we'll have 4 motivators, 4 behaviors, and 7 competencies. And that creates the job benchmark.
So once that benchmark is created, are they locked in, or does the manager or the C-suite person have an option to change or tweak it?
They have an option to go ahead and sit down, look at it, make sure that the results come in. When we have, a certain number of subject matter experts come in, we are able to take a report that actually shows how each person answered, and then it combines a composite score together. So that C-suite person can look at it and say, hey, that one needs to be maybe in the top 7, and it was just number 8 or 9. So we need to move that up, and we can manipulate the data to make that happen.
Okay, so we've got the job benchmarking set up. We've got the motivators and everything is in place, looking the way we want to. Then how do we get that out to the candidates that we want to interview?
What we do is we send them out a link, just like you do when you've got on your website to go out and try the disc link. We do the same thing. We set it up so that there is a link for the candidate to take as part of the interviewing process, and they will click on that. They'll answer it, and immediately the results can come into me and to the hiring manager.
Okay, and so easy peasy lemon squeezy. We just send them a link. They take it. We get the results back. So that's super. Now, we have this thing that you and I both understand and know and love, which is called our gap report. So can you explain a little bit about that in terms of where this is where kind of the rubber meets the road?
The gap report is the best piece of the whole thing, because what happens is you take the candidate's results, you put it against, you job match it to the benchmark. And when you put them together, it creates a report called the gap report that will show where the job expectations are for superior performance and where the potential candidate's level is. So for example, we might say that they need to have urgency, and the job requires an 85 in urgency, but the candidate comes in as only a 60. So it's not a real good match. It's a good match, but it's not an excellent match. So there's a back page on this gap report with lovely color system of the benchmark that says this candidate is a blue, which is excellent, all the way down to a red that's a poor, that's not a match. And so you're able to quickly look at it and say, this one's right on track, or this one's close. Let's go look into the report a little bit further about what's the difference and what kind of questions. Now, the key of this, which we didn't talk about, the added value, is you end up getting customized interview questions off your benchmark. So you have EEOC questions that fall within the compliance that you're able to use, so that if you are asking these same questions of every candidate, you will always be safe when you're doing interviewing.
And that is so critical. And again, it's a objective piece of data, which, if you've got the resume, and as we've seen in so many candidates over the years, sometimes they falsify things, or they embellish a little bit here and there. And so that may be trustworthy, may not be. But this is very, very objective. You have references from people. They're going to sing glowing reports about them because, they were their best friend or their cousin or when they worked there. And so this really dives into an objective thing. And then when you talk about adding those interview questions, it makes the subjective part of an HR person's job that much easier.
Yes, it does. I mean, we all approach interviews with a lot of our own biases. And so we think they should behave certain ways, and it really takes out the bias. It allows that objectivity to happen that you mentioned.
So obviously this is a very in-depth process, works beautifully in the companies that we've worked with before.
Yes.
Now, what happens if a company doesn't do a job benchmark?
Well, a lot of times if they don't do it, they're going to end up losing money on the whole thing. They could lose clients, they could lose money, they could lose current employees, because what you're doing is you are trying to identify what a superior performer looks like. And it just doesn't work that way. So you don't want to go down that path.
So specifically, let's talk about from operational stuff. Let's say we don't have a job benchmark. We bring someone on without being objective about what we're doing. We just, they just were a great interview because I liked them so much. Okay, now what do we end up with? I mean, we've got these personal biases that they bring into the organization that we might not have known about. And then if we don't clearly define their roles, we all know about the miscommunication that comes with that in terms of people trying to elbow their way into other areas of the company or circles of control they're trying to generate that decreased productivity and decreased engagement because, well, this isn't what I signed up for. Well, you weren't what we signed you up for.
Exactly. That is exactly what happens. You have defined it perfectly. And I would say that you have a nice grasp of understanding. Well, I know you do because you do this too. But you have a nice way of being able to kind of encapsulate the way that this looks for people when they can't visually see what's going on.
And so one of the things that I love about it in terms of being able to map out our candidates is, let's say we have 7 or 8 on a graph. If you've got your disc model there in front of you with your D in the upper left quadrant and all the way around to C in the bottom left quadrant, you've got your ideal benchmark plotted. And then visually, anyone on your hiring team can see, okay, here's Bob's dot, and here's Sally's dot, and here's Tim's dot, and how close are they to our ideal candidate? There's no question about, well, he's a DC. What does that mean? Well, how close is the dot to the one we want?
Yes, exactly. That's exactly what happens. And when you can visually plot it that way, it makes all the difference.
It does. So Liz, what are the benefits then? I mean, we've talked about some of the negatives of if you don't. What are the benefits of doing this just, in general?
Well, greater customer loyalty, because when you're bringing in people who you've actually benchmarked, then you find that they have a connection to the job, which allows them to connect to what it is you're trying to do as a company, which connects you to your customers. So I find that it's got greater customer loyalty because your staff is staying longer. They actually are happier in their job. Money saved because you're not doing the hiring turnover. People are happy, they're motivated, so turnover costs are down. And the culture of accountability goes up significantly in an organization. So people know that when they're hired to do a job, they do it. It's one of those where a company cannot afford not to do it once they've tried it. They're stuck. I mean, stuck. They're hooked.
That's right.
Not stuck.
They're stuck on the hook.
Yes,
made it, rallied around there. So, and I agree. We use it obviously in our company as well. And the two things that I think work the best for us in terms of positive outcomes. Number one, like you said, loyalty. There's no doubt if you get someone and they know what they're getting into and they actually are in the role and they're like, this is exactly what you said it was. And I'm thinking to myself,
yes,
like, duh. I mean, that's why we did it. And so I've never had that before on any other job. And I'm thinking to myself, that's where the money is, because then they're like, oh, well, I'm doing what I'm passionate about, what I'm happy about. I've got my why here. And, our retention rates at Solar are so huge because of, this concept. And then the second thing is creating clarity. Creating clarity across the entire organization within your role. It starts basically in that role for that particular person. And then once you've done that, then it can broaden to, okay, as a department, what kind of clarity issues do we have? Well, there aren't a lot because everyone's been benchmarked in those roles. And so there are no power struggles. There are always power struggles, but they're limited in terms of their role in our company because everyone has that clearly defined role. And it's been done because of the benchmark.
I had a client that we just took through this process, and it was really interesting because it's a brand new role. She hadn't thought about what she really wanted, and she always got overwhelmed because she didn't want to hire somebody because she was like, it takes so much time to tell them every single day what they have to do. So we talked about the job benchmark, saying that, if you think through all the tasks ahead of time, you get them categorized, you tell them how much time it takes to do each one, then what ends up happening is you create the job description. So from this whole piece, you have an accurate job description, and the process that we went through not only, helps the candidate who becomes the employee, But the boss is suddenly like now has all kinds of time on their hands because they're not spending every single day trying to come up with a list of tasks for them to do. They have the list. That role clarity is so available to them that they don't have to be bothered.
And the C's and D's love it from the setup perspective because it really gives them structure. Hey, this is what I'm trying to visualize, get it down on paper. It's very concrete. It's very concise. The I's and S's love it because it gives them structure. And
Yes.
as an I desperately crave that structure. If you just say, hey, I need you to sell some to these people and put in your 40 hours. Dude, that's like putting me in a minefield. I'm just going to explode myself every day because there's no outline, there's no structure there. So when I've got that as a high I, it just makes all the difference in the world.
It does. And that's a perfect example of how it works for every single style.
Very, very much so. Liz, this has been awesome today. And how can folks get in touch with you if they want some job matching / job benchmarking?
I have to tell you that I'd love them to come to my website at ltresults.com because under that, I've got a services tab. And in that services tab, they'll find a job matching link that will show a nice animated video, a 1.5-minute animated video of how this whole process works. So I would love it if they'd go and visit that and see how it's actually done.
Okay, so you just killed the podcast, Liz. We got a 2-minute video that explains everything, and we just spent 20 minutes. Fine. Go to Liz's website, watch the nice, fancy video that's really awesome.
They don't get us.
That's right. So, but anyway, all of her services are under her services tab. Of course, the strategic planning we've talked about before, facilitation. She's done so many facilitations at our company before. Really, really positive results there. Performance coaching, assessments, team building, all that kind of good stuff. She is so good at that, and she brings energy to the room all the time. And every time I've had a leadership team have a facilitation with her, the results have always been positive, and outcomes are always good. So, thank you so much, Liz.
Alex, thank you. I really appreciate that.
Oh, I got to share the love here because especially when the love is true and I'm not just blowing smoke. That's when we have actual results to back it up. So that's cool.
Thank you.
Awesome. Well, that's going to do it for today's show. I'd like to thank Liz for being with us today. You can email her at liz@ltresults.com, her website, ltresults.com as well. To get in touch with me, visit therapportadvantage.com. If you're interested in finding out what style you are or to get a personality picture of your entire team, head on over to therapportadvantage.com, click on the Rapport Store tab, and the blue Rapport Store link will take you to the assessment page to find the right one for you. The assessments usually take about 10 to 15 minutes and offer a ton of insights into your specific style. And again, you get the graphs that come with that. So if you're going to do the style for your entire team, you'll have a nice graph that we can get to you, and that will give you plotted points of, oh, I've got a lot of D's in my organization. Didn't realize that. So lots of insights, not only for you personally, but for your team as well. Liz and I are both on LinkedIn, so look for us there. We appreciate you spending your time with us today. On our next podcast, we'll provide more insights into the mysteries of human behavior. So we're looking forward to that. For my partner in crime today, Liz Parker, this is Alex Swire-Clark saying thanks so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening to the Rapport Advantage podcast. We'd love to hear from you. Join the conversation on Facebook at The Rapport Advantage and follow us on Twitter at Rapport Podcast.